Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm finally, after nearly 3 months, bringing you another episode of Read and Rank, where I take a genre or a subgenre, read 6 books within it, and rank the books Dance Mom's pyramid style. I did not realize how hard these videos would be to make, but I'm finding that being a mood reader and trying to stick to one genre is proving to be quite difficult. Surprise, surprise. In today's Read and Rank, we are going over 6 Dark Academia books. The Dark Academia genre is one that I've been intrigued by for quite some time, but I had yet to really dive in. I found the pool, I got on the diving board, and I belly flopped my way into the genre. So, what is Dark Academia? After reading 6 books within the genre, my conclusion is that Dark Academia takes place in an academic setting. It involves a secret society of some sort, a group of misfit friends, and a dark event that occurs. More times than not, it's murder. But that's just my perception so far of the genre. It has blown up over the past few years. It's sort of getting that vampire and dystopian hype wave. It's crashing into your feeds, it's consuming bookshelves in the bookstores, and creating this big phenomenon. I picked out 6 varying titles within the Dark Academia genre, read them, and I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts with you on them now, and then ranking them pyramid style at the end of the video. Let's get started. First up, we've got The Secret History. In this book, we follow Richard, who gives us a peek at his life at a prestigious college in New England. Here he becomes a part of a classics program that thrusts him into a new group of friends and introduces him to a professor who has a close bond with his students. Richard is obsessed with the idea of fitting into this group, which leads him to doing everything he can to do just that. Let's just say Richard makes some questionable choices with this new group of friends. This book walked so all the other Dark Academia books could run. I know that Dark Academia existed before this book was birthed into the world, but in a lot of ways I feel like it's the staple Dark Academia book. This book helped lead Dark Academia into popularity. It's the blueprint. It's a book where I just couldn't help but see the appeal right away. Like, I understood right away, instantly, why this book is so popular. It has the quality of a classic book. The way the story is structured is the thing that fascinated me the most. It's a story that spoils where things are going to end up right away. You're told early on what the big kerfuffle is. A part of me was like, you're not gonna let me unwrap the treat and savor it? It took me a while to process how this was going to work. And I think I realized it's because the big moment, the big end, the big kerfuffle isn't what this book is about. It's not this shock-inducing book that's going to lead you to this like sob-inducing plot twist. While most would say that it's a critique on academics, I agree, but I think the thing that appealed to me the most was the story of the aftermath of the death that occurs, and also the build-up to that death and how it affects the main core group of people that we're following. I was here for that aspect. Every character in this is downright awful, and I loved following each and every one of them. I just couldn't help but find myself being invested in their stories, despite the fact that I despised each and every one of them and would not be friends with any of them in real life. That's the part where I was like, am I being hexed? How did she make these characters so bad, yet so good? I thoroughly enjoyed this one and understand why it's so loved and also why it's so hated. Next up, I've got Special Topics in Calamity. In this book, we follow Blue and her father who have just moved into a new town, and Blue is doing everything she can to fit in with this new group of friends. Doesn't that sound familiar? She has this teacher who is worshipped by her students. Everyone is fighting for her attention, and Blue finds herself joining in on the attention game. A murder unleashes a mystery that has Blue trying to get to the bottom of what went down. I feel like I have nothing nice to say about this book. It was a very aggravating reading experience. I read this immediately after reading this one, and that was not a good idea, because Special Topics in Calamity Physics is The Secret History 2.0. No, it's not exact word for word, and no, it's not exactly the same, but enough to be like, you were clearly inspired by this book. Like, clearly, crystal clear. There were so many things referenced throughout the book that I personally just found very aggravating and just kind of pulled me out of the story each time something was referenced. It was so long-winded for no reason at all. And again, I just felt like I was reading The Secret History, but in a different font. Next up, I read Ace of Spades. In this book, we are following 2 black teens who are attending Niveus Private Academy. When an anonymous texter begins taking jabs at them, they work together to figure out who's behind it all. When they begin to put the puzzle pieces together, the nightmare situation gets darker and darker. Their safety is on the line no matter what they do here, no matter if they actually pursue the anonymous texter or if they just leave it be. This was stunning and unexpected. This was probably the most different out of all of the ones that I read for this video. There is this stream of suspense and unease that runs throughout it, and it's able to maintain that dark feeling from beginning to end. Racism is a big element within this story. It's the root of all the conflict that's occurring. And the more that's revealed, the more that the story goes on, the more that my jaw dropped to the floor. Basically, all I can say is the audacity. I think the pacing is something that really stood out to me. It's executed so well. Things unravel at a pretty rapid pace, and you're just never left in that sort of timeout plot space. Things are moving and you've got to keep up, making it a very engaging read. This is one of those books that I would file under hard to put down because you just get so invested so quick. Pair all of these things with these incredibly layered characters who bring immense amount of impact to the novel, and you've got yourself a home run of a book. Suspenseful from beginning to end, well-rounded pacing, and solid characters. Perfection. Next up, I read How We Fall Apart. Jamie, the once it girl who had a scandal that took the it out of the girl, has gone missing. Now Nancy and her friends are being hit with text messages from an anonymous person saying things like,
Jamie has 4 former friends. Each friend has a secret. One day Jamie goes missing. Which friend is guilty and deserves punishment?
What happened to Jamie and who in the group is involved? Hello, Gossip Girl meets Pretty Little Liars. That's the best way I can put this book, honestly. I like this one for the characters because they did each bring different things to the table. It is another book that's filled with unlikable characters, but honestly, that's what I liked about it. That's what makes it interesting. Honestly, it's boring to always be reading relatable and likable characters. Unfortunately, it does at some points fall into this like cliche high school life style. Got the queen bee, the misfit, the girl that's struggling to fit in. And that in a way almost made it feel kind of stale. My biggest problem with this book though, throughout the book, you are working up to this big reveal. You are working, you are reading, there's a mystery, you've got to figure it out. And then you get to the reveal, you get to the twist. And let me tell you, when I say it's absurd, it's absurd! Oh my god! Talk about unrealistic. I know it's fiction, I know it's not real, things don't have to be realistic, but it was just too hard to believe that these characters wouldn't have picked up on things. It really made me look back on my reading experience and be like, I read all this for that to be the outcome? Sad. Next up, I read Ninth House. In this book, we follow Alex Stern, who has been through it. At the age of 20, she is the sole survivor of a double homicide. Her future is looking bleak until the day she's tasked with monitoring what goes down within secret societies at Yale, one of the world's most elite universities. She jumps at the opportunity and is thrust into this dark and alluring world filled with cult activities and paranormal happenings. Miss Bardugo is typically hit after hit for me, but this was just a full-on miss for me. I did see its potential, so I will probably read Hellbent, the sequel, but I was ready for this to be a new fave and it just did not land with me. Talk about reader devastation. When you like love an author, you hold them on a pedestal and then you read one of their books and it doesn't hit. Depressing. I kind of felt separated from it. Like I never felt like I was in the action. It was kind of like I was watching from afar the whole time. I didn't think this book's edginess had a reason for being as edgy as it was. It was bringing in all this like different shock factor that I personally didn't feel benefited the plot that much. It was shocking to be shocking. It was edgy to be edgy. Also, am I alone in thinking that there was too much going on? I normally love when books are just like jam-packed with things happening left and right. Like that's what I want. Your boy gets bored if the plot happenings aren't happening. But this book was like you're going on a month-long vacation and you only have a carry-on that you can fill in with stuff. So you jam-pack it with everything that you can. You're having to like sit on it and squish it to zip it. And you're like, dang, I hope that thing doesn't bust. That's what I felt was going on here. I say all these critiques and yet I would turn around real quick and write at dawn to defend Leigh Bardugo. She still nailed it when it came to her writing style. Like that she executed flawlessly, as she does. It oozes with gloomy grim darkness and is smothered in a dark tone that is very fitting for this story. You know you're reading a book from a writing craft master when reading it. Unfortunately though, all in all, this one was just not for me, and that's okay. Lastly, I read The Atlas Six. In this book, we have the Alexandrian Society, which is a secret society of magical academics. They protect and care for lost knowledge, and being a part of it will provide wealth and power. Each decade, 6 magicians are selected for initiation, and only 5 will become members. This one had all the ingredients to be a story that I would love. It's a more gentle approach when it comes to the plot, which is something that I've grown to love. It's kind of vibey and chill. The aesthetics in terms of the atmosphere was my cup of tea. That it nailed down for sure. But everything else collapsed the structure that was being built to support this being a book that I loved. The world building, in my opinion, was just so messy and it made it so frustrating for me. Things would be brought up, brushed over, and never explored. I know this book has a sequel and things were probably being saved to be explored in that book, but I almost felt like the things that were being brought up in this could have made this book a banger had they been pursued in here rather than waiting for book 2. One of my biggest problems though came down to the characters. They step into a persona at the start of the book, and for me it really boxed them in. Instead of being multifaceted characters with lots of layers, they all had to maintain this one thing, this one image, this one type, making them incredibly flat. Now I understand this one's popularity, like reading it, I understand the appeal, I get why so many people love it, it just did not work for me. I don't see myself pursuing the rest of the series unless you guys feel like you have a strong argument as to why I should keep going. So if you have a strong argument, definitely drop it down below in the comments because I want to hear you out. I really need to get a wig so I can really fulfill the Abby Lee bit. It's time for the ranking portion of the video. There were only really 2 standouts for me in this video. I'm interested to see if you guys can predict my ranking before I reveal them. On the bottom of the pyramid, we have special topics in Calamity Physics. You were trying too hard to be something that you weren't. I recommend reflecting and finding yourself. Next on the bottom, we have the Atlas 6. You were set up to be a new favorite, but you got messy and needed to tighten things up, bestie. Next, we've got How We Fall Apart. Talk about falling apart. Listen, if we're gonna build up to something, the least you could do is have me gasping for air instead of rolling my eyes. Moving to the second tier, we've got Ninth House. You're lucky to be this high on the ranking. If it weren't for the writing style execution, you would have been lower on the totem pole, babes. Moving on up, we've got Ace of Spades. You were in a brutal fight for the top slot, let me tell you, because you were that good. And of course, on the top, we've got The Secret History. You're the top of the top, the definition of dark academia, and you didn't come to play. You came to own all these other books, and that you did. That's it for this episode of Read and Rank. I hope that you all enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that I'm able to get another episode up soon. But they're a little on the time-consuming side. I definitely have more coming, it just might take a little while. Leave a genre or a subgenre suggestion down below for me in the comments for what you would like to see me cover in an upcoming Read and Rank video, and I just might get to it. If you have a favorite dark academia book that I didn't cover in today's episode, be sure to tell me about it down below in the comments. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, anxiety permitting. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, the tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye-yo! I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday.